so it's an easy track to overdrive. He's coming in as arguably the favorite after that really strong performance in FP3. He's just got to keep calm, keep cool, do what he's been doing, not make any mistakes on that final run in Q3. He's got as good a shot as any.
And Ruth, on track position as well. Let's say Max Verstappen is on pole, but the McLarens have a greater advantage through race pace on tyre life. We've got an amazing battle on our hands in tomorrow's Grand Prix, right?
Exactly. The McLaren has got the tightest cooling. It's even cooler than their own from a year ago. They want to qualify at the front and be leading at the end of lap 1. But the Red Bulls, I think they're going to try and win that drag race into turn 1, even if they can't actually beat the McLarens. Max overtook 2 cars into the lead in 2021, both Mercedes to lead. I think they're both going for different approaches, leaning into the advantages they have with their drivers and their car package.
Yeah, turn 1's a whole other story that we'll look at for tomorrow once we have this grid finalised. That's McLaren, that's Red Bull. We believe Ferrari are in the fight, but what about Mercedes? Let's hear from George Russell.
It's close out there. It's obviously a short track. It's like a minute 17, a minute
Kualifikasi
16.
jam
It's going to be
4.
lap time. So
Kita mungkin delay 10-20 detik.
margins are always tight. Single lap, I think we look okay. Lando looked very quick on his long run, which has obviously been a theme. But as we know, qualifying is so important. So it's sort of all eyes on that for tomorrow, and see what we can do. But it'll be close between the top.
Aku tahu nih nggak ada.
Good to hear from George Russell, who's been enjoying some brilliant form of late. He was vocal, wasn't he, Chris, about turn 1 and getting the best out of turn 1 and that almost setting up your race. He'll know, therefore, how important qualifying is. Do you think the same sort of mentality applies to this racetrack?
Yeah, absolutely. Clear air for your car, whatever that may be in terms of your car pace, is really important. So even if the Mercedes isn't the quickest car here to go and put it on pole position or walk away to win the race, you don't want to be stuck behind a car that has slower race pace than you, because you get stuck behind, cooling becomes an issue, you can't use that pace, you've got to drop back. It can be really, really costly. So I think it'll be really key that George gets himself in a position he's happy with in terms of qualifying. Kimi Antonelli too, on the Mercedes side of the garage, actually doing a very good job. But then it's about getting through turns 1, 2 and 3 cleanly, and then making use of the performance you have.
Yeah, James, I saw George headed up trackside to watch an FP1 in one of the vantage points that you're normally standing in. I loved that. I loved that he put on this mask. And have you seen the clip as well of him with the 2 fans of the George Russell merch? It's just amazing. Did you see him out there trackside?
No, I did. He was in a different role. He had a different mask on. It was a helmet this time. And it's going to be interesting to see.
Suara mungkin nggak jelas ya karena saya ini tengah malam.
It's going to be so important here. It's a short lap, 4.3 I think kilometers. It's a minute 16. It's not that long by Formula One standards, and they all congregate right there in the stadium section. It's so hard to get that clean air that you really want.
Dia delaynya 20.
Track limits be an issue, seen traffic be an issue, and as
Ini
recently as
belum tidur. Tidur sih tadi cuma 1-2 jam.
to start your final lap being an issue, so timing for these teams is going to be absolutely crucial.
Yeah, vital. Ruth, can Ferrari get themselves into the mix here to start this battle, do you think? It's a track that on paper we felt should suit them. They won last year with Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, I mean, they've just been missing something everywhere. When we look at the Ferrari package, it doesn't have a standout weakness. Like the McLaren is draggy and the Red Bull is struggling with the ride. It's a good all-rounder. It's just not performing the best in any single area. And I think it's the same story this race weekend. But they're certainly putting themselves in the position where if someone else makes a mistake, 1/10 can be 5 or 6 positions around here.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure that traffic is going to be an issue. The timing, as you say, track position, track evolution. We saw traffic proving an issue for Isaac Hadjar earlier on in practice. He was fairly vocal on the radio about that, as you heard a bit earlier on. Could they be a threat to that Q3? We'll wait and see. Williams have not had the start to the Mexico City Grand Prix they'd have hoped for. Ruth sat down with James Vowles a few days ago to pick his brains. Let's have a teaser.
Start without mentioning that brilliant Baku podium, and Carlos described it as the best podium of his career, first podium Williams Scott since 2021. Where does it rank for you?
Yeah, it meant a huge amount to me. This is a team that have been really hurting, but they really do give me every minute of every day, and the reward just felt just. The podium at the end of it for all the hard work we've been doing is a nice little blip on our journey. We also have to recognize that the midfield is at times out-qualifying us, and certainly within at least half a tenth on race performance. It is very fine margins. We've just had some good results that have really pulled us through, and when there was opportunity, we've taken it all in that way.
And how much of the success that you've had so far this season do you put down to your kind of package as a car, or your packaging your driver lineup? Because it's something you're extremely proud of putting together.
I think if we had to rate it, it would be me up here, obviously. And then probably Carlos and Alex somewhere in there. No, I mean, what it comes down to is this really is just getting a lot of details right on the car for the first time. It is the first time in a long time that we've had two absolutely top-tier drivers that even when one is slightly off on their day, the other one's straight there. And that's the strength that you need to be fighting for proper championship positions.
What would you say that your two drivers' biggest individual talent or skill is that they're bringing to the team?
With Alex, but he hasn't put a foot wrong. He fundamentally, within reason, is delivering what we can out of the car every single time. And that's why Melbourne, Miami, Imola, and the points to his name, that all came from him just being there at the right time, keeping his head down and keep going. With Carlos, he really has an understanding of how to bridge engineering language into one that is applicable towards driving car performance. Very, very strong. And it will come from the fact that he's worked with a number of teams up and down the grid.
Bring back down to the Mexican Grand Prix, the demands, unique demands on the Formula One cars this weekend. How are you expecting yourself and your team to fare?
It is tough here. This is the race where you've got to spend probably twice or three times the amount of time preparing for, because small details really do add up. And what I'm talking about is brake cooling, PU cooling, of course, again, altitude, but also the race itself, that long run down to turn one, and how you get the most out of the tyres, given all of that. Those are complexities that are quite unique to what we have here. I'm not concerned that we will be on the back foot. I think we'll have a competitive car here. It's just, it is so close in that midfield that I think last week we were out-qualified not once but twice by 1 millisecond and then 10 milliseconds, and the 4 or 5 cars in about a tenth. So you just got to be at the sharp end of that.
Can Williams be at the sharp end of this qualifying? That's the question. And they've had mixed fortune so far. What a helmet, Alexander Albon. Loving that design. But he finding the limits through sector 3 a number of times. Carlos Sainz as well, not quite able to get up there. He, of course, also has a 5-place grid penalty to contend with. We'll see. But brilliant chat with James Vowles. Thank you for that, Ruth. Guys, the jeopardy then of getting in a clean lap. How do you get it done out there, Chris?
You find clean air, certainly, because you do not want any disturbance on that.
Lagi
sense, don't
6
overdrive.
menit lagi ya.
It's something that
Lagi
Hicks
kita
was
mulai
mentioning earlier, but
di
that middle
9.
sector, you want to lean on the car a bit, but if the car gets away from you, that snap is going to ruin your lap. And even if you keep it between the white lines, the spike in tyre temp is going to mean that the end of the lap is going to be really difficult too. We've seen a number of different laps actually get away from drivers because they push that little bit too hard and then it really compounds. So keeping it clean in that sense, no tiny adjustments. If you can have it a really smooth lap, that's when the lap time comes.
Ruth, how much work is going on the pit wall during a qualifying session like this?
There's a lot, and a lot can go wrong here with tyres, toe, and
spoiler
timing.
dari
Tyres, it's all about getting it into the
data.
right window. They could be too
Soalnya
cold or
delaynya
too
agak
hot.
lama ini.
With the toe itself, if you can orchestrate it, you can give yourself an
Ini
extra
agak
couple
lama,
of tenths
hampir
here.
1
If you can luck
menit
into getting it
setengah.
or getting it off one of your friends. I know Max often
Soalnya
gives it
dikasih
to Gabby Bortoletto, but it can go wrong. In 2022,
kasih
there
delay,
was that
kita dapat
Verstappen,
spoiler
Tsunoda,
dari ini
Yukiing
ya.
it moment where
Ya,
actually
di data.
attempting with Checo with the toe ruined the lap entirely. And then with the timing, we've had late red flags here that have meant that cars have had to race to try and get the lap in with, all 3 protagonists not quite making it. And there's just so much jeopardy. Yellow flags, of course. Max lost his pole here in 2019 for not slowing. Everything that can go wrong can normally go wrong here.
Brilliant stuff. That's set the picture up. James, back to the top teams. McLaren versus Red Bull. Where do you believe this pole position will go?
Well, look, I mean, I think right now that
Gelar
McLaren is a little bit
kelima
quicker, but
berat,
Max is
kayaknya
just
berat
so
sih.
good at getting
Soalnya
absolutely everything
gimana ya,
out of it, and
di
especially when it's
Meksiko,
difficult
saya kalau
conditions
misalnya
like this,
Max
it's hard to bet
kesek
against
aja
him. The
di
momentum's on
racing,
his side.
itu bakal berat.
But that was a big gap. It was a big gap in FP3, wasn't it?
Kecuali dua,
Every time I bet against Max, he doesn't. So
dua
I'm going to say Max
dua
for pole.
McLaren,
Max for pole.
oke kan,
Max for pole.
baru.
Lando for pole.
Lando for pole. I'm tempted to agree with you, Chris. I think we're going to see a Lando Norris pole here, but Max Verstappen will be mighty close if practice was anything to go by. At one point, we had 6 drivers within 600ths of a second. Expect it to be tight out there, for the track to ramp up, for position to be mightily important as this World Championship battle goes down to the wire. It all starts here in Mexico City for qualifying.
Mati streamnya. Aduh, ngelag nih postingannya. Berapa lagi? 5 menit lagi ya? 5 menit. Kok di jam 4 menit lagi sih. Den, anjay. Den.
From the heart of Mexico City, this is Formula One. Welcome back to round 20 of the World Championship. It's now time for qualifying to set the grid for the Mexico City Grand Prix with the driver's title in the balance. Here's the circuit at a high altitude, and it comes with high speed as well. 4.3 kilometers, 2.6 miles, 231.5 miles per hour top speed. At least it wasn't yesterday. We are miles above sea level, and as a result, you've got loads of downforce on the cars, high speed, and that middle section of the lap. So important to get right. The flow of this circuit from 7 to 11 could be defining for who's on pole. It's the C5, the C4, and all the way through the compounds, the C2 tyre for the hard. Here we go then. Feels like there's a lot on the line today. At a circuit where world championships have been won in the past, we are ready to see more action at this highest of heights of the Formula One calendar, taller than 5 Empire State Buildings, above sea level. It's a unique challenge for the drivers, Jolyon Palmer.
It is. It's a big challenge to drive. The downforce, the sliding that you're going to be feeling in front of a bumper crowd, still rushing to their seats just before qualifying. They're going to be there in the nick of time, and they're going to see a lot of action in this. It is a difficult circuit to drive. The corners on paper should be quite simple. A lot of them are low speed, changes of direction, the low speed chicanes, the very low speed baseball stadium at the end of the lap are quite fiddly to drive. You take away the downforce, you start to slide a lot, particularly on the rear axle, and they become very mistake-inducing. And then you've got that middle sector where you've got some of the faster corners. You've got to ride the curves, you've got to thread it through turns 7 to 11, and it is so easy to make a mistake, run off track, and completely blow a lap there as well. So on paper it should be straightforward, but because of the altitude, the cars are going to be moving around, they're not going to have the downforce. It's going to be a real test.
It's a fantastic place to watch Formula One qualifying if you're in Stadio, the stadium section, driving straight through the middle. And let's look at the Drivers' Championship on the right-hand side. Max Verstappen, 40 points back. The driver you're looking at, or were looking at, Lando Norris, just 14 back in the hunt of Oscar Piastri, the championship leader since April at the end of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix.
Every weekend has the potential to be a big weekend now. Austin was. It didn't go the way of McLaren. It didn't go the way, certainly, of Oscar Piastri, who's struggled for form. And he's been struggling for form again so far through all 3 free practices, which he has done. Both Lando Norris and Max Verstappen gave way in FP1 for rookie drivers to drive, but they've got back in. Verstappen topped FP2, looked good straight away, made changes with the car overnight. Didn't look as comfortable in FP3 earlier, but Norris did, and he topped that session. We think Verstappen has reverted on the setup back to what he ran, or closer to what he ran yesterday. So Verstappen could be comfortable. Norris looked quick. Piastri's been on the back foot, the championship leader so far.
Yeah, not had the ultimate pace of both of his rivals. Friday was definitely the day for Max Verstappen, but he wasn't happy with the race pace. That's why they were experimenting deep into practice in a way that you wouldn't always see. It's worth saying that the track evolution is going to be high for this circuit. It is dusty off the racing line, and it means that any wide moment, and you'll be slewing wide, losing time and needing another lap. It is worth saying with the tyres, they are good enough for a couple of push laps, and that could be vital.
One of the shortest laps on the calendar, this 4.3 kilometers. It's a short lap in terms of distance, but also time. 1 minute 16 set by Lando Norris earlier on. And that means, particularly in Q1, it is going to be difficult for everyone to get out of the way of drivers on fast laps.
Baru bangun, matamu baru bangun.
Cannot afford to be impeding anyone.
Matamu baru bangun, gak tidur aku anjir.
Corners as well, the end of the first sector.
Gak ada, aku baru bangun, gak tidur aku. Susah tidur kayak gini. Ini kita streamnya cuma pakai ini aja ya, pakai apa namanya? Cuma grafik ya, soalnya kalau kita pakai videonya langsung, nah itu rawan take down, Pak.
Especially in championship connotations. 2016, Lewis Hamilton having to scamper over the road, got away with that one, and put the pressure on Nico Rosberg, who would eventually take the title. Max Verstappen able to climb into the race lead was so important back in 2021 as well in championship connotations. You're looking at the four-time champion trying to score an audacious fifth when it didn't look likely after the summer break.
Kalau suaranya kecil bilang aja, apa suara broadcastnya kecil bilang aja. Emang sengaja gue kecilin.
What has been a superlative run? Can he keep it going? Track temperature is 48 degrees. The air temperature is 26. Fernando Alonso on circuit. The Aston Martin car suited to bolting on all the downforce available.
Ini masih outlap ya. Belum ada catatan waktu. Langsung Stroll. Masih baru. Ini aku nggak tahu nih kenapa.
Up to speed on a soft tyre today. Lance Stroll is just ahead of him. He's the only car ahead of him on the road. The two Astons on the softs, winding it up early on. The main protagonists all waiting in the pits, and that is because, you've already mentioned it, the track evolution will be really high in this session, and they're going to wait and let the theoretically slower cars clean up the circuit. It's going to start with Lance Stroll.
Stroll has had a qualifying crash around here in the final corner in the past. It's very easy to do. The car's light, and you're going to see them moving around more than you normally would, certainly under traction. Coming out of turn 3, and we've seen plenty of moments as well.
Kalau mau nonton langsung ya kau cari lah link stream kau sendiri, kampret. Rawan take down, Pak. Tadi aja aku kena take down tadi. Tiba-tiba mati streamnya gara-gara agak gede tuh suara aku bikin.
Difficult traction zone up towards this faster sequence then in the middle sector. Turn 7, a left-hander, threading your way through, riding the curbs through 8 and 9, bring it back to the left-hand side for the trickiest part, which is turn 10, and it threads you through 11, where you can open the DRS and head on the short burst towards the final sector. Really low speed in here. You can approach with
spoiler juga sih sebenarnya, tapi ya
gimana? Off the turn 13, 180 degrees through Estadio, bounce over the curbs on the exit, and you've got the final corner really, turn 16. Stay away from that wall on the outside that can be inviting. It's slippery up close to it as well. As Stroll does the tighter exit, narrows the distance, and closes the lap.
You're going to see that more and more, but you're also going to see that being a dusty part of the race.
Lama kan nggak kok kampret. Mana weh, F1 TV.
Time as his teammate, he's out-qualified his teammate in every single Grand Prix qualifying session so far this year.
Berdoa lah kau, nggak ada ini babat-membabat Ferrari-mu tuh. Birahi kali nengok rumput, anjir.
Will do well to get out of Q1.
Siapa yang spoiler nih? Ini broadcast yang spoiler atau?
Bit of team order shenanigans at the end of the last Grand Prix. Colapinto overtaking Gasly when he shouldn't have done, but he's actually been competitive with Gasly recently. He's outqualified him in the last 6 qualifying sessions.
Yeah, 8-5 to Gasly across the time that they have been teammates. He was a mid-season replacement in for Jack Doohan, yet to score a point so far this year. Franco Colapinto fighting to secure a contract for 2026. They were running Paul Aaron, who's part of their young driver program, part of the reserve driver setup at Alpine by way of comparison in FP1.
First lap time deleted is for Gabriel Bortoleto, who's gone off at turn 12. That's coming into the stadium section. and that will not be the fast way to go. But it's interesting to see the apexes of turns 2 and 3 as
Anjir,
well.
aduh.
It is possible to lump so
Norris
much
purple.
curve you actually cut the corner. The drivers are going to have to be vigilant not to do that. We're through there with Lando Norris, who's looking at his teammate in the first part of the lap. 0.4 of a second, so it's a scruffy start once again for Piastri on this lap. Norris threading it through 8 and 9, bringing it back to 10. The right-hander taking a bit of apex curb, opening it up, using the curbs at 11 as well.
Purple 1 ya kan.
Neat and tidy through
1
there.
tuh situ. Oh, 2 purple deh anjir. Alah, delay dia, sorry lah ya. Ini ku ceritakan aja lah ya. Berman 1, Hulkenberg 1. Norris dia purple 1. 2 sektor dia purple.
And like many drivers are reporting on the radio, I'm informed, struggling for grip right now. Remember, it will ramp up across the session. He's 0.6 of a second ahead of
dia Norris 1, dia hijau apa nih? Improve 1, improve sektor 3. Improve sektor 3 ya. Tunggu ini ya soalnya ngedelay lagi dia biar pas.
Struggle city for Piastri. He's well adrift in all the sectors. There's a gulf in the first sector, 0.4. There's another over 0.2 in the middle and a little bit more on top in the final part of the lap. He's just been struggling for confidence, struggling for grip, and he's behind a Haas. He's now behind a Williams.
Yeah, and for context, that's the championship
Max belum keluar pit ya, masih di dalam pit ya.
Charles Leclerc moving around a lot, but finding a competitive time. He is second fastest.
And something to watch out for here is Piastri may well have to burn through another set of tyres at this rate just to make it through into Q2. He's been really struggling for outright pace so far. These soft tyres will go again. They'll be able to
keluar 2 ya, dia gapnya sama Norris 100 aja, kita anggap pas 1 di depannya 100 per sekian detik. Ini dah, ini bumper ada pas, bumper ada pas.
We're heading into turn 12, over the curb and skateboarding over the curb. As the curb height is higher than the clearance of the car, this is what it looked like, scraping down it at turn 12.
Nice grind. Grind on the railing, on the curbing for
Norris ya.
Hamilton.
Norris dia purple 2 dia purple ya. 17 Pak. Aku nggak tahu berapa rekor di.
He's actually only just over track limits, considering how smoky that was on the entry, but picking the brakes too late. And again, the track grip starting really not in a good window. So the evolution, particularly Q1, is going to be massive. Here's Verstappen.
Ini Verstappen hot lap. Verstappen hot lap.
Here's Max Verstappen.
Verstappen hot lap. Verstappen. Hijau nih ya, hijau. Verstappen hijau. Improve, lumayan lah improve ya.
He is looking to get up and running. You've got to progress with your lap times all the way through this session due to the fact that
purple 1 nih, Max Verstappen. Bukan purple 1 nih ya, dia purple di 1 tikungan. Ya ini pas nih, pas. Aduh, snap dia. Max Verstappen snap ya, aduh. Harusnya sampah nih, ada diambil. Berat lah nih Polco, berat kali pun. Pintar lah ya, kita tengok di Q3, dia kan track evolutionnya kan berjalan. 17.
Not happy, certainly not compared to what we saw yesterday. He's into third position.
I cannot believe he's that quick considering the mistakes. It's almost encouraging from Verstappen that
Oh,
he can
nice
be
3, purple di 1 sektor.
and be just 1.5 tenths down from Norris. Sonoda's done a handy time as well in the other car.
Bumper kalah dari stream ya, jadi agak enak lah kita. Main lah, bisa kita tengok lah Leclerc bisa nggak ini. Oh, Leclerc dia 1.3. Russell. Enggak lah, jangan Banhart. Enggak Banhart lah, sob semua lah, namanya juga kualifikasi. Gila, kok pakai hard kualifikasi, ada aja. Mau lah melintir dia tuh. Padahal snip tuh, Verstappen tadi. Snip anjir. Ini kan soft nih, ini kan S2 S1 dia.
tenth and a half loss. I'm amazed it's not more. That must be in that individual part of the 5-corner sequence.
Ini dia kalau kuning dia lagi outlap.
Turns 10 and 11 as well. He did then do the best final sector of the session by a margin as well. So there's pace in there for Verstappen, if a little bit of driver talent needed to keep it on the road.
Stroll has improved. He's gone up to 30th
Agak ngantuk sih kok udah ini keadaannya.
Push lap now. Behrman goes top to show you how much the track is.
Jangan kau tanya lah ngantuk atau enggak. Lumayan ngantuk emang, tapi ya enggak terlalu ngantuk karena udah dibantu. Oh, Behrman 1 anjing. Kalau dia 2 bangke. Masih Iwan, wajar. Gak ngantuk aku, santai aja aman.
Hamilton is now dropped to the bottom 5, but is also out there improving. It shows how quickly these laps clock up and the time ticks down.
Anjing Behrman dia.
Has to get something on the board on this set of tires.
Said Behrman was confident.
Hamilton lagi hot lap.
We're on board with Oscar Piastri reclaiming P1.
Hamilton hot lap, dia improve 1 sektor.
0.2 of a second ahead of Behrman. Then it's Russell, Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz, Ocon, Alonso, Lawson, Antonelli, Hadjar, Gasly, Tsunoda, Colapinto, and the man who was in the elimination zone is now P3 is Oscar Piastri, but still after 2 runs
Piastri naik ke 3
behind
ya.
Oliver Behrman.
Yeah, it's a better lap from Piastri. We've got to say an amazing lap from Behrman now to be ahead. He's absolutely flying at the moment, isn't he, Behrman? Off the back of a rapid
Siapa yang hot lap?
bringing some upgrades.
Kosong ya, lagi hot lap semua orang. Inilah si Bortolet ya, Bortolet itu lagi hot lap dia. Ya nggak gaib banyak. Tetap di 11.
Not the lap time that Hulkenberg was looking for. He's in
Oh, Norris, gila Norris anjing 2 purple ya. Berat nih Verstappen nih. Enggak, cuma 1. Yang 1 nggak improve. Mungkin agak lain tracknya. Apa, nonton aku. Tidur baru bangun aku. Iya.
One flying lap on the tires. Both Mercedes did the same.
Balap.
As did Williams. The other drivers
Pulang
stayed
aku, pulang
out
aja.
for the second flyer and found a good chunk of time on that second lap as the track got better. And had to carry the fuel for an extra lap of pushing. And a slow lap in between as well. So an extra
Pulang aku 30 menit kemudian pulang lah dia.
down for it. There's a bit of a penalty in that.
Aku udah bangun.
10th per second.
Yuki Tsunoda fighting for his Formula 1 future, trying to stay part of any Red Bull program. Currently with the senior team, junior team have to decide who they're going to run. They had Arvid Lindblad currently.
Leclerc 2.
Formula 2 was P6 in FP1, taking over Max Verstappen's car. Max Verstappen thanking him afterwards for keeping it in one piece. That's a pressure that Lindblad would have been feeling intensely. Now, important lap for a man who really struggled in final practice. Alex Albon had a couple of lockups in turn 13 and was off the racetrack at the corner that he's just gone round. That's turn 4. Can he find his way to the top 15?
Williams generally struggling to stop their car.
Gila, Tsunoda. Dia ngapain hot lap?
Meaty front lock up at turn 1.
Dia
The bogey corners for Albon have been in the final sector. He hit the wall in FP1.
Ini Verstappen berat nih dapat pole nih. Sampah kali catatan waktu ya. Wah, dia nggak tidur. Iya mau. Tidur bentar aku ya. Oh, boleh gitu.
He's rotated the car through without a lockup. Just having to wrestle the car through 14 and 15. The grip not looking like it's coming to him that well on this first lap on a soft tyre. But up he goes to 13. That won't be good enough by the time everyone else bolts on softs and looks to improve.
Having a really tough run of it. Hasn't scored points in the last 3 Grand Prix and has lined up 19th, 20th and 18th for the last 3 races.
He'll be able to go again though. He's got time. Williams have given themselves plenty of buffer time for a cool, a recharge and a go again. And we have seen the tyres stay in nicely for a second flyer. Hadjar doing likewise, down in 15th.
The driver who hit the barrier in Q1 a week ago in Austin qualifying was furious with himself, and you can understand why. He's got the best starting position this season. A 4th in his rookie campaign. We've got his teammate Liam Lawson going through the same sequence of corners.
Ini nggak ada yang dilewatkan ya. Dia lagi pit semua.
Hadjar on the podium in Zandvoort, looking to return to Q3 today. That is the aim. We've got 4 minutes to go. He's the fastest middle sector of anyone so far. Lawson not too far behind Norris's benchmark. It shows you again there's going to be a big step forward here. Hadjar is fastest, and you've got to find your best lap at the end of the session.
Shows how stodgy Albon's lap was, as the Racing Bulls are going to launch themselves right up to the top of the times. It's quickest for Hadjar, it's third for Lawson, and that should see them safely through. But you hate to have a guess right now because of the way that cars are finding heaps of time overall. Verstappen has just done one flying lap so far in the session. He stayed on this original set of tyres.
Karena menir kita ini harus dikawal ya.
Sektor 1 good enough to go for multiple flying laps around the circuit.
Sektor 1 ya kan. Alah improve sih tapi lumayan lah dari Hadjar.
Isaac Hadjar could be Max Verstappen's teammate for next year.
Hijau.
Of paddock whispers pointing in that direction. Through 4, 5 and 6 we go. Kimi Antonelli getting out of the way. And this is the sequence of corners that did not go to plan last time.
Again on the bumps through 9. He's a little bit later on. He's taken another couple of bumps out of it before he's get loose for it. And he's down on Hadjar by 10.5. It looks difficult to drive in that higher speed section. The car looks very, very stiff.
Left-hand side, Yuki Tsunoda is negotiating that part of the track as well. He's on for a personal best. He needs a personal best. He's currently down in 17th position.
So he's had to go for new tyres. Verstappen will save the set for later on with this lap.
Over the line to P5 for the reigning world champion. Now Yuki Tsunoda trying to use all of the grip for these new tyres that he's fixed to the car for this final run. 2 minutes to go. He comes over the line and gets up to 9th position. It's Antonelli now. Been having a great weekend up until now in 16th. Then the two Alpines, Hulkenberg and Stroll, currently in the drop zone. Pressure lap for the Italian teenager.
Yeah, big time. He's been generally looking stronger and more consistent than George Russell so far this weekend. Again, had FP1 to build up, whereas Russell was out of the car watching on the sidelines at the start of the weekend as Frederick Vesti drove for Mercedes. Antonelli now has got to back up that practice form with qualifying heroics, and we're decent through the first sector. Quite a clout over that curb at turn 5. His low speed didn't upset the car too much, unlike the corners we're heading to now, as Fernando Alonso checks the mirrors and makes sure he jumps out of the way for the Mercedes.
Alonso currently in 13th, knows he will need to find another improvement as well.
Antonelli
at risk. Carlos Sainz going through the sweepers in the middle part of the lap.
You can see the way that Verstappen's car is more aggressive over that bumpy section on the apex of turn 9 than a lot of others through there. He's obviously quick round a lap. He's still been on used tyres for that time, and it looks a handful in that part of the circuit.
Antonelli, currently in the drop zone, has made Q3 for the last 4 Grand Prix weekends in a row, trying to continue that run. That's the minimum expected for a Mercedes driver, and he goes over the line into P11. Carlos Sainz, who's had good practice so far. The winner here last year goes into 8th.
Right, and now Antonelli's just crossing fingers because that's not exceptional from him. There are plenty of drivers further back trying to improve.
Bortoleto, personal best. Driver currently in 15th. Gasly cannot jump out of the drop zone.
Ocon out there as well. Albon will get another chance, having come through the pits to try and improve. Stroll's going to be gone.
Reigning Formula 2 champion over the line to 14th. Alonso now at risk. Hulkenberg in the second Sauber. Final meters of the racetrack. Looks a good lap. Is a good lap. P11 for the Sauber driver.
Ocon can jump ahead of Antonelli. He's going quickly.
He's going very quickly. P3 for Esteban Ocon. Man, did he need that lap. He got it.
So it's Albon and Alonso in the drop zone who are still pushing, and Albon's looking very good right at the start of his lap now.
Pressure lap for Alex Albon. Doesn't want this really tough running qualifying to continue. Second place for George Russell. Albon up on Bortoleto's benchmark in the first sector.
Alonso only needs a 10th as well. His first sector's not great, but he's found a personal best in the middle.
Hamilton up to second position. It's still Hadjar who's top of the pile. On board with the Williams driver. And he's got traffic in the way. That's distracting at the least. He goes to the high-speed stuff. Can he find a lap time to eliminate Gabriel Bortoleto? Alonso finds a lap time to eliminate Gabriel Bortoleto. It's Albon in 17th, trying to escape. Antonelli is the driver at risk.
All on this bogey final sector for Albon, who's got well across that apex curve at 12. Can he stop it at 13? Just about. Pulls it back for a late apex. feather the
Albon
throttle over the
lagi hot lap.
curbs, and it's
Keluar
all
nggak dia
on
dari
this exit. It's got to be clean out of the final corner.
Albon looks
elimination
to his
zone.
steering wheel. Does he make it? The answer is no.
Nggak bisa Albon
And the
keluar dari
terrible
Q2 ya.
form
Yang
in
keluar dari
qualifying
Q2
continues.
Q1
Such a
Bortoleto,
star in
Albon,
races
Gasly,
this year.
Stroll sama
But Alex
Colapinto.
Albon can't
Apa yang
find
kalian
an
harap dari
improvement
dia?
when it matters. And Kimi Antonelli breathes again. Antonelli gets by in 15th. It's Bortoleto, Albon, Gasly, Stroll, and this man, Franco Colapinto, who are out in the first part of qualifying.
Colapinto nailed across this curve more than anyone through the weekend. He's launched his car launch over the raised ridge there, and he parked it up before he had the chance to complete the lap at the end of that one. I'd said Antonelli had to cross his fingers. It was pretty much that in the end, wasn't it? 15th place, squeezes through. Albon, the lap time going away from him. After a good first sector, you can just see him fighting the car. Hasn't looked that comfortable. He's 3/10 down on his teammate. There's going to be a lot of disappointment for Williams. A lot of disappointment.
No points in the last 3 Grand Prix. One of the stars of the season, sitting 8th in the championship. 73 points for a Williams driver in the last 5 years.
Secara mengejutkan dia di atas.
But he's out.
The brakes aren't
Di
working
atas
at
dia
all.
Hajar.
I am smashing the brake as hard as I can.
Dipantatin kemarin.
Turn 4.
A continuation of a problem that we saw in practice doesn't sound like it was fixed for Alex Albon. That explains it.
It sounds like he's just not getting the bite from the pedal. So you hit your brakes. You basically, as you're coming up to one of these big stops, smash your left foot as hard as you can against a very solid
Hamilton
pedal.
kedua, Russell ketiga, Norris mengejutkan dia ke 4
and
walaupun dia
you
purple
then
di 1
feel
sektor.
yourself just literally the retardation in the car. You're up against your belts. The car's stopping so quickly. But when you're not feeling that deceleration, of course, it's low downforce, the air's thin, the brakes will work slightly differently, but they're also not slowed down that much because we're on the lowest downforce effective of the season because of the thin air. You don't get that same feeling, and it changes the whole way that you approach the corner when you're not feeling the absolute squirm of the car under that brake pedal.
Well, for Alex Albon, a third Q1 elimination in the last 4 race weekends. That is a shock for a driver who's been so strong in the earlier part of the year. Lance Stroll finds himself with a 14th Q1 elimination in 20 Grand Prix qualifying sessions that we've run this year.
And Piastri ended up through, but needing to run on a new set of tyres at the end there. He didn't put a lap on them. He'll start Q2, I imagine, on the same set. Nonetheless, it is a heat cycle for Oscar Piastri, who ended up 10th in that one.
Hajar topped the session. Then Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, Lando Norris, and Esteban Ocon, the top 5. Heading out in the bottom 5, Bortoleto, Albon, Gasly, Stroll, and Colapinto. For more analysis, let's send it to the paddock with James and Ruth.
Well, guys, what a session already in Q1. I'm not sure who had Hajar P1 and that one on their bingo cards. We'll get to him in a minute. But, Ruth, I want to start with Red Bull and Max Verstappen. It looked like Max really was wrestling with that race car through that middle sector.
Yeah, so he had an oversteer moment turn 3, another one in turn 9, losing 0.11, 0.18 respectively, just in those 2 corners alone. But they're so brave, Red Bull. So not only did they go out late with 1 lap of fuel, which means they're saving around 0.15 compared to the McLarens that took 3 extra laps of fuel, they then go out on a used set of tyres just to do 1 extra lap and park it with 6 minutes to go in a session. It's absolutely phenomenal. And even on that faster lap, he went right out again. He had another moment in turn 10. It's tricky conditions out there, for drivers that are rather good, like Max.
Yeah, he's not bad, is he? I mean, can the team make the kind of adjustments they need to in this session to try to calm the car down through that section and find him even more pace?
Yeah, I mean, you know, he loves to have that, like, pointy front, loose rear. The track grips up, it will come to him naturally. But also they'll be able to adjust throughout the session. And you can see even the value of going twice in that session. Ollie Behrman, one of the first cars to do 2 runs of 1 time lap. You can get such an advantage by just repeating here.
All right, let's talk about some of the other strategies being played here, because one driver not as confident right now, Oscar Piastri, McLaren having to roll the dice a little bit with the championship leader.
Yeah, so we know McLaren, they love to be conservative, which has fared them well. They took 4 laps of fuel, so push, double cool push on the first run. But then what was really interesting, second run, Lando went out on a used set, so matched to Max, his championship rival. With Oscar, he was struggling a lot, lost most of that time in his first run in in turn 9 alone, but then he used another new set. So going into Q2, he is now down 1 set. He's going to have to make that up either in Q2 or go into the Q3 shootout with 1 fewer set than his rivals.
Yeah, either way, it's not a great look, is it? Immediately for Oscar Piastri up against it as we head into Q2. And as we do that, let's head back up to the booth.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Ruth. We are ready for the next part of qualifying, and I'm really looking forward to this because it could be comically close. If we look at the evidence of FP3, it was mighty tight at different stages throughout that session, with the pressure of improving late on, and we've seen it there at the end of Q1 when Antonelli, who has looked really good, general feel across 3 hours of practice, he looked very, very strong, and yet finds himself scraping through in the end, right on the pole, but he did make it through. He's part of the 15th, still in contention.
If he found a 10th, he's up with Piastri in 10th. That's how close it is. The whole field within a second. Always a pleasure to see in a Q1 session. We didn't see the main contenders go out on a second new set of tyres. So that's why Hadjar ended up quickest. It's why Hamilton joined him at the top as well, putting on a new set of tyres. Piastri did put on a new set of tyres, but the team told him he didn't need to do too much on them. So went down, started the flyer, just in case he needed to improve, and then backed off it. So he won't have taken too much rubber off them. And he will go again, presumably on this first part of Q2 on that time. Try and save 2 sets for Q3. But at the moment, is not going to be the focus for the championship leader. He's got to make Q3 first.
Oscar Piastri has not finished on the podium any of the last 3 Grand Prix. It is his longest streak away from the podium since a 4-race run. USA, this venue this time last year as well, as a wet Brazil and Las Vegas.
Haas look awesome.
They do. If you consider that on average this year, they're the 16th and 18th best qualifiers in the field. Oliver Behrman, the 16th, Esteban Ocon, the 18th. Both have been as high as P8 on the grid at various different points this year.
And you mentioned as they were coming in, the live times, Behrman quicker than Piastri in those early stages. Ocon ended up putting on a new set of boots and found a load of time to go up to 5th as well. Hadjar's obviously been outstanding in the Racing Bulls to top that first part. Lawson safely through. This is a day where midfielders can do something special. Hulkenberg for the sprint in Austin was up in 4th. It feels like there could be a giant killing of that proportion. So then if you're a giant, you've got to be worried about being killed in this one, with the midfielders all thinking that they can score a good haul of points. Remember, Constructors' Championship positions, the points make such a big difference to them at the end. Haas would love to get a good score. They're 11 points away from Sauber ahead. Sauber have got a good chance, still with Hulkenberg in it. Racing Bulls need to hold off Aston Martin. There's only 3 points there. All of that gaggle are in a big battle. They don't care about this Drivers' Championship. They just want to score many points.
No, they're just swinging for the fences in these qualifying sessions. Nothing to worry about. Ocon and Behrman know they're continuing with the team. Oliver Behrman will start his 23rd Grand Prix tomorrow. He's in strong form, and you don't want to do the thing where you look great in Q1 and then you find yourself out with a poor lap in Q2. You want to progress it all the way through. A reminder for you, Oliver Behrman chasing a 3rd consecutive start in the top 10 for the first time in his Formula 1 career today.
I find that tends to be a bit of a rookie special sometimes. You look brilliant in Q1 and then don't find any significant improvement as the track ramps up and your rivals all manage to find small tweaks and fine-tuning, and you end up suddenly like, how am I out? This was looking so good. Same thing goes from Q2 into Q3. It's the sort of thing you don't have in Formula 2. You have one qualifying session, you give it everything, and then that's it. Here, it's all restarted. The time that you have had on the board counts for Zippo, apart from the fact you're still in, and you've got to go and do the same, but better.
Isaac Hadjar with the grippy second set, very happy with his run, topping the session. The first Racing Bulls driver to top any session of any description so far this year, and going out very early once more to get a time on the board.
Again, showing how hard it is to get out of the way of other people there, just getting completely off the road, almost coming to a standstill to allow Hadjar through. Flashing past the middle sector. Turn 9, where Verstappen's caught himself out. But any other car struggling on the bumps like Max is there.
It is his rookie season in Formula 1, Isaac Hadjar, but he has had an FP1 around this circuit in the past. A useful reference for the driver who graduated as runner-up from the Formula 2 Championship last year. This time 1 year ago, he didn't know he was getting promoted to Formula One. What a journey he's been on. He's even got a couple of trophies from the Zandvoort podium. One he broke, and one he was given a week later. 17-1, the time that he puts on the board. We immediately switch to Lewis Hamilton, who's heading to turn 4.
Hits the brakes hard. Another one of those big stops. DRS into it. Slow it down. 40 miles per hour through the apex of turn 5, which is the slowest corner, bar this one. Just about 50 miles per hour, in fact. They're almost the same through 5 and 6. Car looking a little
Verstappen gila, Verstappen pole, purple pole anjir.
Dance it through 10, fighting the car once again on the exit of 11. This is the same set of tyres that Lewis ran on in Q1, so he's not quite getting the same grip. Hadjar put on another new set. Hamilton didn't, so he's trying to save as well, thinking of Q3 coming up through the very tight turn 13.
On pole position on one occasion around here, back in 2016 when he went wheel to wheel with his rival for the title into the first turn. Went over the road. Hulkenberg, then Hamilton, and Hadjar. Alonso is 4th in the order. We go around the final corner with Max Verstappen, Dutch driver, over the line with the fastest time. Nearly 0.2 of a second ahead of Hulkenberg.
Well, it's new tyres for Verstappen. It's not an absolute headline time, I have to say. He's slower than Hadjar did in Q1.
Strange one. As we see Charles Leclerc go over the line with the fastest time. Running second last year before he had an error and let through this man who eventually finished P2. Great first sector for Lando Norris.
A massive first sector from Norris. Car's obviously working in a straight line. He's obviously got good traction coming out of turn 3 and braking ability in that one. Already had the fastest first sector. He's just beaten it by another 1/10.5 to go clear now of Charles Leclerc in that part. Again, you can see the ride quality. The McLaren is so much better than that of Verstappen's Red Bull. And Norris is able to squeeze on the power nice and cleanly on the exit of turn 11. Now we hit the brakes for turn 12, get towards an apex. Don't lump the curb because it'll unsettle you towards the exit. He's clean there. He's on the brink of a lock-up on the left front at 13, but is nicely through on the limit of the braking capability at the low speed. Feeds on the gas, no hint of a correction out of the final corner, and Norris is starting to dial in.
0.4 of a second at the head of the field. Let's get a like-for-like comparison with the man he's trying to take the championship lead away from. Over the line goes Oscar Piastri, and he is a second away.
So that is his scrubbed set of tyres. It's still a massive gulf. When you think Hamilton's just done a lap on a set of tyres that have done a full lap, Piastri's have just had a heat cycle, and he tumbles down to 10th place. He's in big trouble so far.
Russell goes ahead of him. Antonelli finds himself in 14th. That's going to be a new set for Antonelli. And we go over the turn 4 line with Liam Lawson.
In deep on the limit of that rear grip. Turned it in, and it wasn't sticky. You can see as soon as he gets offline, the dust picks up as well. So that's Lawson over ambition. Antonelli was actually on new tyres for that. So he's made a mistake in there, yeah.
Great lap for Carlos Sainz. Won the Grand Prix here last year. Sensational performance on his way to victory, and he's looked good all the way through the weekend. Sole remaining Williams in the session.
He's on fire at the moment, Sainz. He's got a 5-place grid penalty, remember, for tomorrow.
And you said earlier in the weekend that's going to sting because he's looked like being one of those midfielders capable of a giant killing. How much must he regret that lunge to the inside of turn 15? Contact with Antonelli. He was complaining about the penalty at the start of the weekend. Contact with Antonelli in the US Grand Prix means wherever he qualifies, he goes back 5.
And he's the winner here last year as well. But the penalty was fair. It was over ambition in the end, but it's a Williams trying to pass a Mercedes in a Grand Prix. The race before, he'd gone from 18th on the grid to 10th with a line of overtakes at the end of the race in Singapore. No one else was making overtakes. Before that, he's on the podium. He's one of the 4 drivers in the entire field right now, Carlos Sainz.
What's wrong? Piastri.
I felt like turn 5, something a bit weird happened with the PU.
Yep, we're on that, Oscar.
Power unitnya Piastri.
So the team seeing something on the data at turn 5.
Cuy. Aduh, selesai nih Norris juara dunia nih.
Tom Stallard, his race engineer, on the radio saying they're on it and they're looking to try and deal with it.
So that's your very low-speed right-hander. The second chicane, you're already down the gears. You're second for the right-hander. And imagining it might be something like a sort of power power surge or torque spike where he's trying to get on the gas from 5 to 6 and suddenly just feels like there's a step out from the rear end of the car, or he's trying to put a little bit of throttle, it's given him a chunk and destabilized it. Obviously, Thomas Stallard looking through the data, you've got so many channels that a huge amount of people can look through live. You've got control systems engineer at the track, you've got a whole team back at base and Woking for McLaren.
And Liam Lawson going again out of necessity. 210 miles per hour, hitting the brakes, trying to take as much curb as possible. Keep one part of the Pirelli rubber between the white lines. That's the aim through turn 2. He makes it through 3 with no obvious correction. Into the braking zone. He's caught him out on the previous lap.
And look at who's on the bubble again. It is Piastri. Not on a new tyre,
but
it's going to be a pressure lap when Oscar goes back out. Championship leader who just doesn't have a banker on the board once again.
Oscar Piastri, the championship leader since the 20th of April. Gap climbing above 30 points for the championship lead when Lando Norris's engine expired in Zandvoort.
And Norris is dialed in right now. We saw his lap, it looked nigh on perfect. The car looked glued, it looked like it was on rails. Lando was precise with his inputs, wasn't fighting it everywhere, as we keep seeing Oscar have these moments of opposite lock, big, sliding, rolling oversteers. Lando's starting to dial in pretty well. So Lawson's coming back into the pits. He'll go for one more new tyre set, and he's got time for that.
His teammate's gone into P4. Isaac Hadjar ahead of Max Verstappen. Then it is Hulkenberg, Tsunoda, Hamilton, Russell and Piastri, the top 10. Behrman trying to make it 3 weekends in a row. His teammate is directly behind him. It's a big moment in the destiny of the driver's title.
That was actually Lawson on new boots for that one. So has he got an issue with his Racing Bulls car? Here's Oscar then, well back in the queue. You can see brand shiny new red-walled soft tyres aboard the McLaren. He's now in the whims of other people potentially improving. Yellow flags, we're back in the scenario. It could be a punishing circuit, the barriers are close. Andrea Stella rightfully looking a little bit jittery here.
Verstappen, pole kita yuk. Gelar kelima masih mungkin.
Championship since he has held that position,
Saya
driven the team along with Zach Brown back to the front in Formula 1.
Bajunya merek.
But they want their first driver's title since 2008. Lando Norris currently the fastest. Nervy moments for Piastri. Verstappen in P5. Remember how committed the drivers are from turn 7 to turn 11, and there isn't much by way of runoff. We have seen late runs here affected by yellow flags.
Not all the traditional big scalps will get through this. Looking at Sainz's pace and Hadjar's pace, Hulkenberg's looking quick. You're looking at the drop zone as well. Those Haas cars have got pace in them if they get hooked up. Antonelli has the potential to improve a lot. Fernando Alonso always has the potential to improve. And you've got Hamilton 8th, Russell 9th, Piastri 10th. Not everyone is going to be happy at the end of this Q2, I feel. The midfielders are out here to strike. Here comes Verstappen.
Into the first 3 turns of the racetrack. Max Verstappen looking for that top 10. He's placed it there all the way through the season so far. Our starting position was in 8th place back in Budapest.
Takes a slipstream from his teammate up towards turn 4. That might be an extra few hundredths, could even be a tenth of a second from 3 into 4 for Verstappen. Yuki gets out of the way and will now focus on his own improvement on the next lap. So Red Bull playing the team game there for Verstappen, who's done a personal best in the first part of the lap, and it's a good first sector, by far the best he's done so far.
Finding his way through these corners, striking the bump dramatically in Q1. Seems to be happier in the second part of qualifying. 2-minute warning in Q2. These are the laps that you need to work. Comes through turn 12 into the stadium section.
Hijau emang hijau, tapi nggak terlalu gede.
Once again, 40 miles per hour through 13. Runs the curb on the exit, will turn the entry into 16, running a little bit wider than he has done at other times through the weekend. And Verstappen improves well, but he's still 3.5 tenths down on Lando Norris.
Significantly, that's 6th position for Esteban Ocon. Oscar Piastri on an outlap, currently in the drop zone. P5 for Oliver Behrman. Lewis Hamilton with the fastest middle sector of anyone so far. He's the driver at risk at the moment. George Russell, Oscar Piastri, Fernando Alonso. Kimi Antonelli in the drop zone. Lawson on an outlap. Here's Antonelli as Hamilton goes P2.
So Piastri is still on his outlap. He's just behind Antonelli, ready to wind it up. And he will hope that Kimi keeps it pinned down to turn one for a beautiful slipstream. We'll see George Russell, who's in danger, try and scrabble his way through.
Russell on pole for the Singapore Grand Prix, P3 at the moment. Projected knockout time is a 1:17.0. Sainz goes over the line. Remember, he takes a 5-place drop.
So Hulkenberg is going to be gone. He's not improved. Everyone else behind is out there seeking an improvement. That includes Oscar Piastri, who has done a pretty ordinary first sector.
This is it for Oscar Piastri. A Q2 exit here would open the door for Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Last year, it was a Q1 exit. He needs speed through the corners that he's approaching on the left-hand side of your screen.
Yeah, let's have a look then through turn 7. How much does he risk keeping the foot in through 8 and 9 over the curve? Small correction through turn 9. Bouncing over the apex at 10 as well. He's not arms and elbows through that middle sector. Is neat and tidy. He's half a tenth up on Yuki Tsunoda. There's not a lot of buffer.
Tsunoda has just gone 10th. Ocon is into the drop zone in 11th. Over the line goes Fernando Alonso. He goes to 13th. Piastri needs this to be a mighty final sector. It's fine margins. Can he make his way through? Big save out of the final corner. And Piastri gets to 7th place.
Selesai championship Piastri ini kalau Norris menang selesai itu poinnya.
He needed all of that traction out of the final corner. Wide eyes, Andrea Stella, and quite right. That came down to the final corner.
Look at the margins. Piastri in 7th, then it's Antonelli in 8th. Behrman, Hadjar completing the top 10. Tsunoda misses out by 1/100th of a second. Ocon missing out by 300ths of a second. Hulkenberg, Alonso and Lawson out as well. And Oscar Piastri's heart will be racing. He's made it, but he's made it by less than 1/10 of a second.
Yeah, I'm sure he wouldn't be the only one with racing hearts with the way he was fighting the car.
Zero grip.
Lawson's had a bit of a mare at the end there, went out for another attempt, but just came through the pits and stayed on the same set of tyres and got nowhere near. He's obviously made another mistake. Alonso looked a little bit scrappy,
di Mexico.
7 and oversteering in turn 10. The grip certainly is not easy to find around here. You can see how thick those rear wings are. It's maximum wing for minimum downforce because of the altitude of the circuit, and it makes the driver's life very, very difficult. I think Piastri was a couple of degrees of opposite lock away from having to delay getting on the throttle fully out of the final corner and not making it into Q3. But he's there, and that's what counts right now.
Yuki Tsunoda missed out by 12 thousandths of a second. Hadjar gets through. It's his 12th Q3 appearance. Behrman has done 3 in a row.
Okay, you're through, Ollie. Good job.
Woohoo!
Behrman masuk Q3 lagi anjir.
The driver who's made it through Q3 for the 3rd race in a row. Antonelli got through, as did Piastri, Leclerc, Sainz. Still ruined that penalty. Great form around.
Gelar kelima yang betul lah ya kan. Sampah kali nih cara waktu masa cuma
reminder for you, Lewis Hamilton has not started
enak kan
the
ngurusnya.
top 3 of a Grand Prix for Ferrari so far. Let's hear from one of the big scalps of Q1, Alexander Albon.
Alex, sorry to see you here at this point. We did hear the radio at the end. Can you talk us through that one, how it all unfolded on your side?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't that unhappy with my lads. Felt like they were good lads, just slow. So it happens. I think we struggled just a bit with feeling grip on the track, which it can happen, but frustrating.
Looks like it's been a tricky weekend for everyone out there with the low grip levels. What specifically have you been chasing, and what was missing this afternoon?
Lots. Yeah, ride. We fixed the ride throughout the weekend, but then we struggled a lot with the tyres in qualifying. I had a lot less grip in qualifying than I did in free practice 3, so I need to figure out why.
Any hope for tomorrow? Long race ahead?
Yeah, long race.
Thanks, Alex.
Alexander Albon out earlier than he would want, but saying it's a long race, there's all sorts of possibilities. What entertainment for the crowd there. There was a genuine possibility of the championship leader going out in Q2, but crucially for Oscar Piastri, he's made it, he can catch his breath, and can he now find his best laps of the weekend when it really matters? This has been a hallmark of his championship campaign in his third season of Formula One to try and eke out the very best in Q3. He will need it because Norris looks dialed in.
He's half a second away from Norris. On these sort of days, it's a little bit like the Grand Prix in Austin. You've just got to maximise what you can do. Don't worry about Lando Norris. Don't worry about Max Verstappen. Just think, if I can get a top 5, I get a top 5. The other thing in play for the Mexican Grand Prix is the start. The long run to the first corner can make more of a difference than the final lap of qualifying around here.
Oh, it's so well set up. Q3 to come, but first, a comparison between Lewis Hamilton and the man who was fastest in that session, Lando Norris, with James and Ruth.
Yeah, that's right, Alex. I mean, look, by F1 2025 standards, a pretty healthy gap between the top two in Q2. So let's take a look at a side-by-side lap to see exactly where the lap time was and the advantage for Lando Norris came from in that McLaren. We know it's been strong all weekend long, but the Ferrari has been stepping up as well. So you see along the bottom there, that data trace, cars very even in straight line speed. That's such an important thing here in Mexico, especially as we get into race trim and the drivers looking down the road to pick that brake zone through this first 3-corner sequence. You can see how much curb they're having to take, especially in turn 3 there. A slight advantage to Lando Norris, 7/100 over the section, but then actually a little bit of a top speed advantage for the Ferrari in this direction, down into turn 4. Later on the brakes, carries more speed in, does Lando Norris, but then it goes back to Hamilton's favor, bringing it exactly even as they head into 7 through the double right-hander in the low speed. That McLaren's so strong. Norris ekes out a little bit of a gap, but then through these fast S's, again, the Ferrari's so strong. Through 10 and 11, you see it dip back down, not just to even, but actually advantage for Lewis Hamilton back on the straight. Now this time, the McLaren, rather, with that Mercedes power unit, pulling it back up through turn 12, and this is where Lando Norris really makes the difference through this stadium section. A bit faster in 12, a little bit wide in 13, but he rolls the speed, keeps the minimum going, and then through that final turn 17, able to put the power down, gets a little bit of a better run, a better jump out, and ultimately that's where that 0.2 of a second gap comes from Ruth. All in that final sector. This McLaren is just so good in the low speed, isn't it?
It's so good in the low speed. And what's even more ominous is Lando Norris did that on a used set of softs that he used already in the Q2 session. I mean, it is advantage McLaren at the moment. Lando's been fastest in 9 of the free practice 3 sections. Only 1 is done to pole. Can he make it 2?
It's been an interesting session, though. We had drivers that were P1 in Q1, down in P10, barely making it in, just thousandths of a second the difference. But from what you've seen, is it clear favorite Lando Norris? Does he have the advantage?
At the moment, but never right out Max till the very end of it. Oscar does seem to be struggling. He used an extra set of tyres, but so did Max in that Q2 session. It is advantage Lando going into Q3.
It'll be interesting to see what Ferrari can do, if they can make any changes to make Lewis Hamilton a little bit quicker in that tight and twisty third section. But as we get ready for Q3, we'll head back up to the boys.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, James. Here we go. 12 minutes on the clock. 10 of the best drivers in the world trying to take pole position for the Mexico City Grand Prix on a day where it feels like any of the 10 could be in the top 5, and we could have any order for the championship contenders. Lando Norris to that middle part of the lap, though, 7 to 11. Looked like he was on rails.
The car looks so good. You're right, minimal corrections, able to let the speed run through the apexes to pick up the exit line as well. No fighting behind the wheel. And then I love that final sector as well. It doesn't look astonishing, but the way that he's on the cusp of locking the brakes into turn 13, as Hinch said, that's where he made up actually more of his time compared to Lewis. Look like it's close to a perfect lap around Mexico as you can get, given the nature of the circuit. Can he reproduce it now? Will he need to find even more? In the end, he had 2/10 back to Lewis Hamilton there, who was second best. He looks to be in a class of his own. Had it in FP3 earlier on today as well. Is so dialed in, which makes it more surprising that Oscar's struggling so much this weekend on the other side of the garage. But once again, it's all wiped. Nothing that has been on the board so far counts for anything. It's a clean slate, and it's a chance for everyone to have a shot at pole or the front row or the top 5 if that's all you can do on the day.
It is crucial. Piastri, Lando Norris, and Max Verstappen. Verstappen trying to score the greatest comeback in Formula One history, coming back from 104 points to take the title. Norris trying to reclaim a lead that he lost in April. He was the pre-season favourite. The pressure seemed to weigh heavily. Carlos Sainz will just go out and desperately attack the racetrack. He was on pole here 1 year ago and he won the Grand Prix. Here is the man who starts favourite, sure.
You see the used tyres on the Sainz Williams, who was 2 thousandths away from Verstappen in Q2. It's looking so good. It is a shame for Sainz and Williams. He's got the 5-place grid penalty. Otherwise, he might even be able to get in amongst the front runners once again here. A lovely shot of all the cars heading out. So, the top positions for Verstappen, if he's in the top 3, he'll have a chance to lead the race into the first corner. It's such a long run. You can see it from the way the cars are even exiting the pits up there to the roar of the crowd in the first corner. It's a long old way. You've got to be in it to win it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be pole on this circuit. For Piastri, a top 5 will give him a chance of getting towards the top 3. Maybe he's been able to make some tweaks in the meantime as well, and the car can come to life. Could be just a small amount of prep on the outlap. Can be a little bit of front wing to change the balance and get everything working sweetly. And suddenly you turn into that first corner and you feel the grips there. You gain the confidence. You can attack and feel like you're back on an even keel. So Oscar will be hoping as he leaves the pits on another new set of softs that he can find that. And of course, because he ran that Q2 session with a used set first, he is in the same boat as Verstappen and Norris in terms of tyres again.
On board with Max Verstappen on his outlap. Here is the championship leader. Trying to become the 35th champion of the world.
Evolutionnya nggak terlalu bagus di sini tadi, makanya Verstappen ambil inisiatif duluan dia.
Under big pressure at the end of Q2, passed that test, and he saved his best for last. Max Verstappen has the most pole positions of any driver in the field this year. 7 poles belong to him. He's looking for an audacious last lap to try and topple the McLarens. Max Verstappen building up to 200 miles per hour, going for pole.
On a day of big track evolution, we're used to seeing Max go right at the end, but he is the first car to attack turn 1 in Q3 this time around, nibbling the entry curb as he widens that first corner approach, bangs it over the curbs on the apexes of 2 and 3. That didn't look like too bad an exit for him as he picks up a George Russell slipstream momentarily down towards turn 4 and stamps on the brakes again. It's a good first sector.
Collector's item that. George Russell getting a slipstream to Max Verstappen. Gratefully received though. Any advantage is useful. Top left of your screen, Lando Norris making his way through the first 3 turns.
Good from Norris on the exit of turn 3 as well. The traction looked like it came to him. Not actually as quick as Verstappen though in that part.
This is crucial. Now there's the catch for Max Verstappen. That bump has been haunting him all the way through qualifying.
Yeah, he has struggled with it relentlessly on every single lap. He's still in the fight, he kept his foot in, but it is always catching him out. It cost him a bit of time in the middle sector. Norris coming up to there right now.
Verstappen in the final part of the racetrack where he is so strong. Norris about to cut the beam through the second sector. First time on the board will belong to Max Verstappen. It's a 1:16.4 to beat.
Norris is now up by a couple of tenths into the final sector. This is where he did his magic in Q2.
Norris bisa
dijawab nggak? Been on pole position since the Belgian Grand Prix. It's a big moment now as he stands on the power, goes over the line, and he's ahead of his rival for the title.
But the Ferraris are flying in the first part of the lap. Leclerc's nearly 2 tenths up on Norris through the first sector.
Here's Oscar Piastri, and he's third of the championship contenders. Norris, Verstappen, and Piastri. But what part do Ferrari have to play? Here's the man who was on pole here last year. He will take a 5-place grid drop. Sainz to the line. Sainz goes into 4th. What about Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton?
Hamilton is neck and neck with Norris. Leclerc is up on Norris. The Ferraris are well and truly in play.
Hamilton has 1 pole position around this circuit. Lewis Hamilton to the front row. Ahead of Verstappen, ahead of Piastri. But what about Charles Leclerc? So often he comes alive in Q3. He goes over the line. He goes to pole position provisionally. What a lap from Charles Leclerc.
Russell's close to the top 3 as well. The Mercedes is coming alive.
First of all, Antonelli, George Russell, such a good
Norris
qualifier this year.
Norris
Only one time has he ever been outside of the top 10. That was in Monaco. Here in Mexico, it's Russell to go into P6. But Lewis Hamilton is staring at his best ever Grand Prix start for Ferrari. And Charles Leclerc steps forward. We've been talking about Norris, Verstappen and Piastri. But it's this man on run 1 who has provisional pole.
Well, they were so mighty last year, Ferrari, at this circuit. Carlos Sainz won the race, had pole position. Charles Leclerc was so quick as well. But we've sort of written them off in recent races. Their form has been up and down, but mainly down. Well, they have turned it up at the perfect time. That is a mighty lap from Leclerc to get underneath the 1:16.
Norris di pit ya, harus masuk pit.
Clear of Norris.
Adalah selesai lah gelar kelima mau Verstappen.
Two Ferraris up in the top 3.
Kali ini
the championship party is going to be spoiled at this rate.
Cara mengejutkan ya.
Has 2 pole positions around the circuit previously in his career. Lewis Hamilton has been seeking a moment like this, trying to start.
Cara mengejutkan ya Ferrari.
In the rows where you can fight
udah bagus sih di Q1 Q2 bagus emang Ferrari.
Against all expectations.
Kenapa tiba-tiba bagus mobilnya di Meksiko aja? Emang Meksiko ini salah satu trek anomali, Wak. Bayangkan lu balapan di atas gunung. Bakal banyak problem.
Don't discount George Russell either. Lost a little bit too much time in the final sector.
Harus dijaga.
Saying rears were nowhere. So a little bit of fine tuning, and Russell can get himself into that mix as well with the top 5.
Let's go, baby. Leclerc.
From Verstappen to Leclerc, probably the gap
bisa nih
too big, but we did see Max have that big old snap through turn 9 that has been his Achilles heel so far in this qualifying session. There is time in there for Max. If he can get a top 3, he'll have a chance to get in a slipstream race down that long straight to the first corner. Piastri has to keep his championship rivals in sight. He'll be hoping that Ferrari at this rate can do a great job and lock out the front row, take away the big points from the likes of Norris or Verstappen.
The track temperature is down to 43 degrees. There's the head-to-head between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris.
Siapa yang track evolutionnya masuk ya.
Qualifying his rival for the title. Piastri, as so often we've seen, finding form in Q3. Norris will believe that we can usurp Charles Leclerc, but Ferrari have entered the conversation in a way that many would not predict, including Charles Leclerc, who didn't think he was going to be able to fight for this. Remember, the teams are very concerned about the performance of the medium tyre. A lot of them have had to think about setup changes going away from ultimate one-lap pace, like this man who was doing a long run in FP3 earlier. Concerned with race
makin bagus atau makin nggak bagus. Kalau nggak makin bagus,
have set them back for one-lap qualifying. Wide open battle for pole.
Garansi pole. Karena soalnya
tiba-tiba turun. You're in the front of the field, you have clean air, and you can dictate the pace at the start of the Grand Prix as well. If you're in traffic, the race pace and time management becomes an even bigger
race pace Verstappen pun jelek di
3 minutes and 26 seconds is the time to leave the garage. And here we go, one final lap and a critical lap for the top 10 to sort themselves out.
Well, improving at the end here is going to be weekend defining. Yes, it is an incredibly long run of 768 meters down to the braking zone from pole position down to turn 1, and we have seen some epic moments through the years. Giving yourself the advantage of starting in the top 2 rows is everything. Norris would have expected a fight for pole. It's up against the Ferraris as we go into the final run.
Piastri is the first of the main contenders out on circuit.
Verstappen
follows him. So once again, Red Bull doing this one different to how they've been in recent races, being the last over the line.
Critical lap yang Verstappen nih. Kalau misalnya dia jelek udah selesai lap 5. Apalagi Norris nih logonya bakal improve juga nih, nggak mungkin nggak improve. Walaupun turun suhu tracknya, kita nggak tahu juga sih. Piastri masih di Piastri sama Verstappen keluar duluan.
If you want to know how likely his chances are, he didn't know at the start of the
ganti ban.
Masih
di pit dia.
It's the Joliet optimism that we enjoy. They are 0%. He's had a great season, taking his 2 opportunities to win Grand Prix this year, but he's very much hoping that changes next year.
Piastri yang keluar duluan ya.
Piastri 2026 crowd, but we have 5 Grand Prix to run. 2 sprint races, and we're setting the grid for the Mexico City Grand Prix. Grand Prix won by Max Verstappen on 5 occasions. He's currently 4th, going in to the crucial run. Here we go then, pole position up for grabs. A vital moment in the World Championship battle, and it's Oscar Piastri, DRS Open, heading beyond 213 miles an hour to turn number 1.
Hammers on the brakes, gets the car stopped, picks up that first apex, brings it back to the right-hand side because this slingshot through turns 2 and 3 are so critical, and it was neat and tidy on the gas afterwards. Verstappen starts his flying lap now. I wonder if there's anything Max can even do about that turn 9, because the car just doesn't seem to ride the bumps. He might just have to hang the throttle in there and deal with the...
Alah, buffering kampret.
consequences rather than just go slow and keep the car settled.
Verstappen
nggak improve Verstappen dah.
behind Charles Leclerc.
That's a really good first sector from Verstappen.
Leclerc
That's his best of the day so far. That is quicker than what Norris did earlier on.
Berevolusi.
Charles Leclerc's first sector. The driver starts his final run. Piastri not miles away. He would move to the front row.
Well, he's hanging on to it, but it's quick.
It's very quick for Oliver Behrman, who improves past the championship leader. He goes up to P5. Piastri needs this to be an improvement. He comes over the line, and he does improve to 3rd position.
Track is ramping up and ramping up. Norris's first sector is huge.
What can Verstappen do? Chasing a return to the front row. He'll get it.
Dua, tapi tetap aja nggak dapat. Piastri, Norris dia purple 1.
Norris is up on Leclerc in the first sector, and it's a mighty middle part of the lap as well.
Sainz goes ahead of Piastri. He'll take a 5-place grid penalty. Lando Norris, fastest in the first sector, fastest in the second sector. He's had to wait 6 Grand Prix before claiming pole position. It's been a while for Lando Norris. He comes over the line and he's beaten Charles Leclerc's time by 4/10 of a second.
How about that? That's 90. That is a 4/10 buffer they've got to find.
Hamilton to the front row. And now Charles Leclerc needs an electric final sector. Chasing career pole position 28. Charles Leclerc can't get there. He climbs back to the front row. It's Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Kimi Antonelli is ahead of Sainz and Piastri. Can Russell inflict more pain on the championship leader? He does.
Kelima dia, ada salah tuh gelar kelima, posisi kelima. Piastri makin sampah wala.
And Lando Norris has waited to hear these words. Lando Norris is on pole position with Verstappen in 5th and Piastri P8.
It's an extraordinary lap from Norris. The first one of Q3, it turns out, was very average given what he had at his disposal, and he has just unleashed both barrels in this qualifying session, and that is shots fired towards a championship for Norris. Verstappen knows he's got to be perfect on this run-in, and 5th place gives him a lot of work to do in the Grand Prix tomorrow. And Piastri's damage limitation is lucky that Sainz has a 5-place
pagi hari ini di jam 5.
Qualified by a Williams, and his damage limitation is in full swing from 7th on the grid with Norris on pole.
You on pole?
Oh, what a lap!
What
a lap! So you and I don't know how I did that.
Doesn't matter, mate. It's good luck.
I know. The less I know, the better.
Norris gigi.
We've spoken so many times about monstrous Verstappen laps for pole. That is, I would say, one of Lando Norris's best ever laps. At the end, a championship on the line to dig that out and have it so comfortably. He has 6/10 up on Oscar Piastri.
Piastri will start 7th on the grid. Sainz will take a 5-place penalty. It was tight between Antonelli, Sainz and Piastri. They were separated by